Guys, we are back at the property doing some finishing up work. Got my boy with me. So we've done some work since last time. Let me shut this door. As you can see there, we've got the door framed out. Did a little bit of cedar work. I was going to put a full piece and trim it out and trim this out, and I figured as many notches as I needed, I just ripped that cedar plank and just put that in there. So as you can see, we've got our vent. You can see it moves nice and easy. Also, update on the front, we do have the lock right along with the handle. I did notch out for the latch, and then also notched out for our 30 amp twist lock. So this will be for the generator out front. But as you notice, also we've got another fixture here. This is going to be an exhaust pipe for a diesel heater. So this is a 3-inch thimble with a 5-inch sheet metal cap with a boat hull exhaust. And the exhaust size fits up perfect with the exhaust pipe from the heater. Actually, could you grab me go in through the back door there? And yeah, and then reach in the back and grab the exhaust pipe. Yeah, awesome. All right, so let's head inside. So we've made some changes in the design. As you can see, it is cleaned up. This is the bedroom area back here. Got it vacuumed, swept, blown, all that good stuff. One design difference that I have made is I'm not going to do a full ceiling anymore. We are kind of went back and forth, and the 1/4-inch ply I think is too thin to do. These are roughly between 21 and 23-inch spans between these rafters, and we'll definitely be sagging in there. So what the new plan is I boxed out the areas between the rafters that we're looking for. Thank you. We're looking for lights to be. So there's going to be a light in here that will be controlled by this light switch. Light switch on, and that's the bedroom light. Originally I had it in this front section. I thought it'd look a little strange because it is right on the half wall, so I did move it back a section, box this in, and the plan is to make a ceiling tile right here that covers this entire area, and the light going to be in the middle of it. So we're going to get this spray foamed, and then I'm going to paint the entire ceiling black. After I do that, I'll be able to make these ceiling tiles here, put them up, and rather I'll match the walls, or it will probably be 3/4-inch birch, and so I may even go a little fancy and stain those. Either way, there'll be one there in the bedroom, one there, and one there for the living room. And we'll kind of give you an idea looking back. So like I said, it's about a 22-inch span. There's a 12-inch opening, and then 2 bys on the side. So you have about 18 by 20-ish. It'll almost be square. Light, light, and that'll be in the main bedroom, and in the main living room, and then a light in the bedroom. So we've got that. Also, since last time, I piped in our DC. This is 10 gauge, you're standing in the light. 10 gauge DC power coming in there. And I will come outside. Actually, we'll go take a look at that. I've got a little extra whip just to be able to maneuver. And then I've got a staple lightly in just to pull it off the wall so they can foam around this. But we'll go outside and take a look at how the box looks on here. And now this was put in on a hot day, and I wasn't quite at my best at the end of this day, but this is my box here. This is a solar box. We've got a disconnect, and I believe they call this an SPD. It's for like high voltage shocks, like lightning or anything like that. And then I do have it siliconed in with some brown silicone. So for now, I've just got the wires drooped in with enough slack that I can tap into this box. So I've got that in. So that covers our PV or solar wires inside. And that pretty much covers the bedroom. And then coming in here, I moved this one back. So originally this wire was in this first section, and now I've moved it in the second section. I think that'll give it a better spread, kind of like I did in the bedroom. Also, we've got this here. It looks terrible right now because I have it saran wrapped, but this is the inside of that exhaust thimble. What I'm hoping, I did a little Googling, and I was trying to figure out a way to still make this removable after I spray foamed it. And kind of what I came up with based off of its suggestion is to wrap it in saran wrap. And I actually there's a cardboard around it, like folded around it and taped, and then saran wrap over it. And so when they spray around this, even if it sticks to the saran wrap, I can pull the cap out and then pull the saran wrap out. And so that should still leave me with the foam around there. That's the hopes, at least. So other than that, that's about it. Everything else looks the same. As you can tell, got some tape over the holes. This is butyl tape, the same thing that I used to space out underneath the threshold, underneath there, to add spacing to level out the floor for the threshold. So we've got all of those holes covered, and even the ones back behind the 2x4s here in the back. He said that he'll be able to spray behind these no problem. So I just went ahead and taped those up back there and then all the way down. So anyway, that's it for today. We are going to be headed out. We've got some stuff to do. We're going to be making a little trip out of this, and going to do some swimming, and then we'll be back tomorrow and bright and early, and we'll be getting some spray foam done, and we'll do some updates then. So awesome. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow. And it is about 2 o'clock the next day. Back out here with my boy. He's back and got us an update. Check that out. We are all filled in, spray foamed up, 2 inches on the walls, all the way around. Got the fan ventilating the place up right now. And got the ceiling at 3 inches. Told them not to worry about scraping down the ceiling since we're gonna paint it, so not a huge deal there. But the foam is still cooling off. The guys just left a few minutes ago. And so it's already cooling off in here, but you can still feel inside of there, still warm from the reaction of that foam. But like I said, it's definitely cooling off in here. Got my vent unwrapped. Everything looks good there. Got some room around it. That is perfectly what I wanted there. And that is for the exhaust for the diesel heater. That's all set up. So probably will have a little bit of trimming to do in some areas once it's time to put the walls on. They actually overfilled in some areas. There's probably about a 1/4 inch or so there. And then actually over here is gonna be our biggest pain. Probably got about a 1/2 inch in this bump out section right here. Need to shave that down. So a couple places to shave down, just a little bit, and then I'll probably clean up the ceiling anyway, just some of these gnarly looking stalactites on the roof. But gotta say, this will be a big jump ahead. If you notice, of course, there's a mess here dealing with spray foam. So I originally made this video, well, I should say, made another video right after the spray foam and didn't care for some of the things I said in it after thinking about stuff. So anyways, this is an update. As you know now, we've got the spray foam done. And full of stuff. This is going to be the cabin setup for this winter, this hunting season. So as you can see here, we are spray foamed all in. Everything is sprayed up. So, I guess what I'll go ahead and say is originally I was kind of praising the guys that did the spray foam, but after some time and some looking and going over everything, I had quite a few complaints. And so what I'll start off by saying is I paid $1,900 for this entire container to get spray foamed. And that's roughly 2 inches on the walls and 3 inches on the ceiling. And now let's go with the positives first. They went extremely heavy. This here is nearly flush with the board faces, and that's going to be, there's a corrugation about here, so that these studs are every other corrugation, and so 3/4 of inch behind it, and then the stud, which is 1.5 inches, whatever, 1 3/4 inches. But here is the same depth plus the depth of the corrugation behind it. So I'm going to guess maybe another 2 to 3 inches. So this is probably like 4 to 5 inches, maybe like at least 4 inches for sure. And then this is at least 2, if not more. And then same thing here, 4 more. And that was fairly consistently done. Like I said, I had to shave this down, and that's where the corrugation goes the other way. So this is super, super thick right here. Bump in, bump back out. And so, as you can tell, I mean, they laid it in thick. What I will say is I got my money's worth. So after checking around and getting some quotes on this, most of my quotes for doing 2 inches on the walls and 2 inches up on the ceilings was close to $3,000, anywhere between $2,800 to $3,000. I think one might have even been $3,600. So what I will say is I priced this out to do this all myself with like those froth packs. I looked through a few brands. I don't know, there's a Tiger one. There's a few different ones I looked at. And to get this level of depth all the way around, it was gonna cost me about the same, if not more, because I've read that most of those kits don't go nearly as far as they say it does. So I'll say that's the good. Now let's start getting into some of the bad things. So everything looks fairly filled in now. There are some gaps, but if you notice, like here, this is me coming back with another spray foam, the same spray foam that I did the gaps of the doors and the windows with, because they didn't do that, which they didn't tell me that they wouldn't. And what kind of stacks onto the bad is there was very poor communication with this guy. I tried to get information on how I needed to prep and things I needed to do myself, and it was insanely difficult to impossible to get a hold of him. So communication, first terrible part of the experience. Second, they got it done, and the product wasn't consistent, and two, the application wasn't consistent. So you can see here, this section looks fairly consistent. I got a little weird here, but it's still hard. I mean, this is rock hard. Let's get over, like down there, not terribly bad. This section is where it got really weird. Very goopy, kind of started to turn into like more of an open cell. And if you look, it's still hard, but back here, this is a much smoother. It's still very hard, but not quite as hard. And so I think something might have been an issue with their mix. Like they had some really good runs. Like I said, that panel turned out nice. This one fairly nice. This was super thick. This was a bump out, just like this other panel over here. I'll show you. This panel was super, super thick. I had to shave all this down because I am going to be putting walls up on here. But this panel come out very consistent. But if you look over there, starts getting a little lumpy. Back there, super lumpy. Corner, super lumpy. These small ones. Now, this might be just my lack of knowledge with how spray foam is, but it could be, I'm thinking, possibly on smaller panels they have an issue because they can't back up as much, so they have to get closer, and so it gobs up. Same thing here. If you notice this small little square here, this is where I'm going to put a box for a light here. Actually, I don't know if I told you guys, I'm no longer going to do a complete ceiling. I'm going to do boxes with just a drop-in like recess light. And so there'll be one there in the bedroom, one there, and one there in the main room. But if you notice, super inconsistent and globby in these smaller patches versus some of the bigger areas that came out fairly smooth. So that just might be my lack of knowledge, but I will tell you that this here, that's kind of like smoother looking, bigger bubbles are just a hair softer. All right, so consistency was an issue, but what became super frustrating is the application consistency. So if you look here, this doesn't look terrible, but this is a lot of extra foam. I actually purchased a box of 6 of these. I still have 3 left in there. This is a closed cell foam, and kind of for my looked like the best. I didn't want to buy a whole froth pack because I didn't think I needed it, but I did need something. So we'll go through here and I'll kind of point stuff out. Like you notice all of this. Now this is it's still dense, but it's still softer than the stuff that the guys professionally put in. And that's one thing I will say about their product, is that this stuff has had pretty high reviews from what I've seen on Amazon and YouTube and whatnot. But the product they use, I mean, is super hard compared to this stuff. So even if this is I'm hoping it's closed cell, but it looks kind of open cell to me. And I did shake it and it was all the right temperature. So now there is still closed cell behind this, but the cavity on this was quite thin. Same thing here. All of this is my extra spray from here over. This is the professional guys, is this part, and then this is me. Same thing here. It's kind of cool that the can spray actually looks identical. Even on camera, you can't see a color difference between here and here. I mean, there might be a shading slightly, but this is that spray can, this is their spray. So I can't even point out how many places all of this had to be filled in more, this had to be filled in. And the more I look at it, it was a lot of the small places. All of this needed more. And then these corners. Basically, if you see a whole string of cut off that looks a little strange, that's probably my extra spray foam. All of this right here was my extra add. And all of this here got a little out of control. I was learning back here. But yeah, so I did go through. If you see some black paint, it's because that's where I was marking where to go. You might still see some remnants of the black paint, but most of it got foamed back over. Sorry if that wind is making some noise in the camera, but so that was the second part. Consistency in the application. Now, what I do have to say, and of course now that I look at it, here we go. So this is an issue. This is what I was working on, and I will probably need to open up another can because of this. So I know that here, that's the back of the 2x, and all that's behind that is 3/4 inch foam. So this is super thin. I want to fill this little cavity in. So there was quite a few of these. Now, there was a lot of it that was fine like that, where it went all the way through. But this, I don't know how I missed this whole stretch here versus like this. So, yeah. So, that was a pain. And the first thing that had caught me was this area up here. And I tried to fill it in as much as I could, but when I would spray it in from those cans, it would blow itself out. So I kind of did the best I could to fill in that area. So that was some work. My next complaint. They did clean up the walls, the face, they scraped them down. They had a scraper similar to something like that. And then they had like a bread knife. And so I went home and I was like, well, I have these that we've never used, and it actually worked quite well for shaving all this stuff down. So between that, cutting it, and it is slightly serrated. It's like a type of like a bread serration, but I think this is a carving knife or trimming knife, and then this is just Harbor Freight. Good little trimmer here, or scraper. I noticed that actually it scraped better with this side than, instead of pushing like this, actually pushing like this seemed more productive to get it off of the wood. And if you notice here, the wood actually looks pretty clean, and that is all of my time right there. Lots of time in scraping all of this down. Now I went pretty crazy in the bedroom because, as I said, I'm not putting a ceiling in here, but I'm going to paint this black, and then this will have like a piece of birch stained or something like that with a light in it. So I want a fairly consistent look in the bedroom, because that's where, if I'm laying down, I'm going to look at the ceiling. So I cut all of the little knobbies as flat as possible so there wasn't anything that was just obviously stupid. But in here I did some scraping, as you can see there. I did scrape some of this, and then I got tired of it. Hours and hours and hours of scraping. That's what it kind of looked like before, and that's what it looks like when you're done scraping. So this is another square for a light, so I just needed to make sure the light was good, and I may or may not do that at some point. I did the heavy spots on the surround, but I'm probably still gonna have to come back and get this for when I do walls, or I'm gonna just try and compress it up. I don't know what's gonna work better, but I tried to get the large lumps out of it, but I just got tired. I literally have one completely full 20-gallon and another over half full, plus it's probably a half a 5-gallon vac full of it, of that foam in there. So overall, I would say I got my money's worth, and I would say for my application and what I was looking for, I'm relatively happy with what I got. But if you got these guys to do a house, you'd be extremely disappointed. It's definitely, you get what you pay for, kinda. I actually feel like I got more than I paid for, but if you were expecting a perfect job, you'd be highly disappointed by these guys. Otherwise, I must say this stuff is phenomenal. It's 81 in here. It got up to like 84, 85 today, and it's just now creeping up to 81, but it's actually cooling off right now. Now last night was a bit cold. The air temperature felt good, but this air mattress on the floor is brutal. It is super, super brutal. It gets really, really cold. And I think it's just absorbing air, the cold from the floor. So, otherwise, got this shelf up. I just slapped in some of these collapsible brackets. It's not actually functional right now. I just needed to get something set up to get the diesel heater in place for when I need it. Now it's getting borderline at night. It drops into the upper 50s, and that's not actually an issue in here as far as air temperature, because it didn't drop below 70, like 67 I think. It dropped to 67, and that's with the windows open, fan blowing, trying to bring some cool air in here to bring it down. But I probably won't kick this thing on until it gets down into the 40s or lower at night. So, but you can kind of see what I'm working with here. Got the, I don't know, Wipro, whatever you want to call it, set up there. This is going to be the same idea. The shelf will be a couple inches shorter, but I kind of did that so I could use the table and this side by side. This table will not always be here. If you want kind of an idea how this is going to turn out eventually, bed is going to be there. It's going to be a queen just like this. And so as you can see, there's 2 feet left over here. So that works out perfect. Queen bed, couple of feet there, half wall and half wall. So that's the bedroom. There'll be a shelf that goes across here. to put electronic chargers and all kinds of stuff like that, or just luggage, anything. That'll go up there. That'll be a big heavy duty shelf. And then over here, it's kind of just a little sitting area, or dog crate can go over there. Then eventually this will turn into a like a countertop cabin, countertop and cabinets. Haven't decided how much of it to use. It's probably going to be based on what is available at a reasonable price, probably secondhand or scratch and dent. But we'll have something here, and then it'll come over to here. And the plan is actually to make this shelf sit at the same height as the countertop, and so it'll cut off wherever it's at. So it'll be countertop and then collapsible shelf. And then I'll have to cut it shorter here so it doesn't conflict with this, but it'll all move over because there's not a wall here. There will be a wall over here, which will move this shelf over anyway. But that's the exhaust setup right there. Out, downhill, so I don't have to worry about condensation through the hole there. And then, of course, the important part to remember is once we need it, we need to open up this other side so it has free breathing room to let those exhaust gases out without melting all of my stuff. So, other than that, like I said, this is going to be camp for this year. Just threw a little light. I think this uses something like 40 watts. I am charging also a little battery, but yeah, so I think it's something like 40 watts. So now this is one of my battery banks. This is an older one, but oldie but a goodie. It's worked quite well, but I've got some upgraded ones. This is just an easy one for me to grab right now. But yeah, got that. Got my table. I'll clean my tools off, be able to put my gun and parts up here, and my ammo, all that good stuff. And yeah, so unfortunately, there may not be a whole lot more videos until probably January, and I can start coming out here after hunting season, maybe trap some hogs and do a little bit more work. I still need to finish up. We did get a final location for the outhouse. I'll show you that before we head out here. But we moved the outhouse over here. I was looking at the terrain. I had it over here originally, but there is a bit of a bowl, and so I'm a little worried about water getting down in there. There's a ridge here, and then a little flat area. So I'm going to move it forward a few more feet, and then I'm going to dig a hole right here. The pit will probably be right about where those little holes are. And we'll get that digged out, and then we'll slide this back over the top of it and get this finished up. This one got put on the back burner, but hunting season rolled up and I wasn't even able to have a place to sleep yet. So that was kind of secondary. But that's kind of next on the list at the moment. As you can see there's the front. So not bad access from the equipment container, and out of focus, and then the cabin is right over there. So anyways, any questions, comments, as usual, let me know. I appreciate it. Otherwise, God bless and have a good one.